Hello, Ducks fans, hockey fans in Orange County, California, United States, Finland, and all over the world. Happy Wednesday, everybody. This video is going to be different. I'm going to basically give you something that I was thinking about and something that a certain family member has given me an idea during the summer. This video, as you can tell, is going to be titled How I Became a Ducks Fan. And no, this is not a collaboration with another YouTuber. This is from me, my personal account of how I became a Ducks fan. I'm going to give you an honest, very honest, clear, transparent view of my path from a young hockey fan, learning about the sport, to now. 29 years ago, my brother started playing hockey. It was something that my parents was wanting to give him, and of course me, a chance to experience the Canadian culture. My parents were basically wanting me and my brother to try everything: hockey, swimming, karate, kung fu. Yes, I do kung fu. Well, back then when I was small, little. But it was way back then at the time. So I remember learning about the sport at school. I remember getting interested and trying to do the skate tests or whatever. I'm not sure if they do skate tests back then. But I remember not skating that well. But my brother was very proficient in skating. He was a good skater. He was a good skater. He learned about the basic stick handling and skating backwards, that sort of thing. Me, I couldn't skate well, which I don't like getting into. It's a personal thing, okay? But back at the topic at hand, I started to learn about the sport, watching my brother play, and knowing about like the slang, the lingo, like the dekes, the slap shots, the wrist shot, the glove saves. It was when I started to learn about the NHL, along with my brother, about the original 6 teams, the teams like Montreal Canadiens, Toronto Maple Leafs, Detroit Red Wings, all the way from the original 6 to the expansion of 1967 and until the emergence of Wayne Gretzky and the Oilers dynasty and so on. What drew me to hockey was the excitement. Was the excitement that really drew me to it. Was the hard hitting, the skills, the fights, of course, the fights, and of course the sense of community among hockey fans. Now, my brother, he took a liking to the original 6 hockey teams, most notably the Detroit Red Wings. He was an admirer of Steve Yzerman and Vladimir Konstantinov, which he had a privilege at the time to attend a hockey school, which Konstantinov was mentoring at the time. He became a fan of Detroit, so he chose Detroit as was his favorite team. But for me personally, it was, I had no hockey team to root for, and the original 6 teams, and including Detroit, no offense to you, my brother, didn't appeal to me. Okay, neither did their players. But what drew me to the sport of hockey was Mario Lemieux. So with Mario Lemieux, he was kind of like the anti-Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky was talented, super talented, uh, very skilled, talk of the town, the great one, as he was called. Mario Lemieux, or Super Mario, was a player that, what more can you say about him? He was Wayne Gretzky's kind of like his equal or rival or whatever you can say. So with Mario Lemieux, I cheered for the Penguins, and the Penguins won 2 Stanley Cups in '91 and '92. In '91 and '92, I didn't know much about Pittsburgh except for Mario Lemieux playing for the Penguins at the time, winning 2 Stanley Cups. But back then, when I was young, I didn't have that connection to Pittsburgh and, or to the Penguins or the players involved from Yager to Tom Barrasso, you name it. It wasn't until when, in '92, when I was 12, I heard about this movie called The Mighty Ducks. The Mighty Ducks was, of course, back then, produced by Disney. It was considered the Bad News Bears. Now, if many of you baseball fans and sports fan knows, you know what I'm talking about. It was the Bad News Bears on ice. It was about a junior team that was finding that will, that collective will to win. So I didn't watch the movie. It was until a few years later when I watched it with some of my younger cousins. I was like, thank God. I was like thinking to myself, thank goodness they didn't. The team didn't adopt those as their uniforms. But during that time, I was still finding my way through the sport of hockey. I was not too sure about Pittsburgh because they have recently no longer were the Stanley Cup champions. I wasn't too sure about Montreal and Toronto, especially Toronto, because of their, I wouldn't say their drought back then, but their arrogance was really turned me off, including the Montreal Canadiens fans. Around that time, I think it was later in December of '92, I came home and I was sitting in on TV, and it was like, it was news. It was on TSN, which was the ESPN version up in where I'm from. I'm a Canadian, so they talk about Disney investing into the NHL, not as like league wise, but founding a franchise that would later be called the Mighty Ducks, Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. That piqued my interest in a way. So, fast forward to January of 1993. I was still young at the time. Okay, I had a full set of hair, so. And from January to April, which I covered in my Mighty Ducks Anaheim Ducks video, I was intrigued by this name. I was curious by this name. It wasn't until about 2 months into 1993, or 3 months, the Ducks, or the Mighty Ducks, would unveiled their logo and their colors and their uniforms, and I was blown away by the look of the Ducks mask, the purple, jade, and silver, white of the home and road away jerseys. The designs back then was really innovative for someone who, like me, who was 12 years old, excuse me, trying to find a team that he can cheer for, that he can call his own. I was drawn to it because of the way the way it looked. Because back then, you look at the Mighty Ducks uniforms compared it to the rest of the other NHL teams, it stood out. It was very distinctive. It was very unique, and I liked that about that. I really liked the look, and I was drawn to it, and it was something that really got my attention at 12 years old. When you're 12 and you're still trying to you're still trying to find a team that you can call your own, it's something that makes you wonder, makes you think. And also, I was curious at the time. I was curious about the sport. So, fast forward a few months later, in Quebec City, Quebec, June 24th, 1993. I know back then that the expansion draft event wasn't held. Was I suspect it wasn't televised back then as it was now with Seattle and Las Vegas. I came back home and turned on TV, and it was TSN, and they talked about the players that the Mighty Ducks selected. The first one was Guilbert, and they had a list of names: Alexei Kazatonov, Troy Loney, Sean Hill. And being someone that was inquisitive, because I always loved to write about history, I always loved to look at stats. And I looked at the stats of Guilbert, Bobby Dulles, Troy Loney, Sean Hill, my gosh, Bill Holder, Ron Tugnot, Anatoly Semenov. I looked at their stats. Yeah, I was a bit of a stats freak back then. I was a little bit of a stats nerd back then, but you know what I'm getting at. A part of me and clicked in my mind and thinking back, because this team picked players that had that workman-like attitude. Add in Stu Grimson and add in players they traded for like Patrick Carnback, Todd Ewan. I'm thinking to myself that at 12, and this was the 12-year-old version of me at that time. I was thinking, this is a team I could get behind. I mean, they just drafted Paul Kariya, which I saw play on TV. My TV, we get channels in Maine, Black Bears hockey. So I remember seeing him, and I remember the Ducks drafting him, and I'm like thinking to myself, this is a team I could get behind. And because you look at the stats of the players they drafted, they were building a team that was ready to not only compete, but ready to prove themselves and prove all naysayers wrong. Kind of like the underdogs. And I said to myself, and I was young, and I said, I'm going to be a Ducks fan. This is a team I could get behind. Now, my brother, okay, he was in, I think, the mini or junior C or D or level. He was always ragging on me. He was always teasing me because the guys he looked up to was the Yzerman, the Konstantinovs, I think it was, oh my gosh, it was the Osgoods. It was because he always, because his team was Detroit, okay? The team he always rooted for was Detroit because it was established. It was like kind of like the old school type of team in a way. My team, which became my team, was the Mighty Ducks, Anaheim Ducks. Well, it was the Mighty Ducks back then, but it not only became the team I adopted, but it became my team, but also all of our team at that time. And it was very, because looking back now, you could say I took that leap of faith, and I never regretted it because that team I grew up with. I grew up with that team. The wins and loses, the goods, the bads, the uglies. You guys know what I'm talking about. All of us grew up with that team, including yours truly. Now, back to topic at hand. I didn't have at that time television, like televised games for the Mighty Ducks back then. You gotta look back because televised games would always be on the East Coast. Games on the West Coast would be at 11 or 11:15. Basically, nighttime over here on the East Coast. So I would go to bed at, I think, at 11, wake up at 7, get downstairs, turn on the TV, and I would wait, okay? I would wait and watch, like, waiting for the results of how or what the Ducks would do. And it was kind of like that. It was kind of like that until 1994. It was an Easter holiday. I saw the Ducks take on Toronto. The Ducks won 3-1. It was John Lilly scored a goal, and it was not Bobby. I think it was Bobby Dallas or which one. Guillermo was in net. So the Ducks scored 3 goals, and Toronto scored 1, so ruining the shot at the time. So it was the first game I saw of the Ducks on TV. It was memorable. It was memorable because I enjoyed every moment of it. Seeing the purple, jade, silver, and white crowds there, the people enjoying themselves. I had an appreciation for local Ducks fans and hockey fans in Orange County, enjoying the sport, enjoying something that I grew up with. And the team I grew up, basically, it was part of my life. And yeah, it sounds crazy, but it was part of my life. And I would say it was my escape, and it was my source of strength. I'm not going to go into details about certain parts of my life, but without the Ducks, I would not have gone through the worst parts of my life. And the team battling back, winning, going against all odds was something that motivated me, inspired me, and inspired me to change my life. And it motivated me to make poems. I rooted for the Ducks during the good times, bad times, and the ugly times. I was able to get on the message board of the Mighty Ducks Anaheim Ducks in 2001. So next month would be 20 years I was on the Ducks message board. So I watched the Ducks deep Stanley Cup playoff run, which was the most magical time of the year. It was 2003, and I took I let it sink in every moment, watching them battling each dominant team, upsetting Detroit in 2003, making it all the way to the Stanley Cup final, only to lose in a heartbreak in versus New Jersey. 4 years later, I let it all sink in, seeing the team win the Stanley Cup, seeing them raise the Stanley Cup at the Honda Center, which months prior I was humbled and privileged to see the team I love so much face to face, live, courtesy of some local Ducks fans who I have the privilege and honor to call them friends and acquaintances. Why am I telling you this is because this team, I hold a special place in my heart and in my soul. It's something that you can say it changed me. It was part of my life and will continue to be part of my life forever. And this is something that I know that all Ducks fans and sports fans of sports teams will understand that when you follow this team, or any team, it becomes part of you. And for me, becoming a Ducks fan was one of the most important decisions and important things that I did in my life, including working hard in any field. And why am I saying you to this is because as much as I am a Ducks fan, I always look forward to each season, no matter how great, how good, how bad, or whether or not if the Ducks are rebuilding and restoring and rejuvenating mode, or if the Ducks are the top dog in the Pacific Division. What more can I say? That reflecting back to the past 28 years, I have no regrets of being a Ducks fan, and always makes me smile knowing that I've seen historic firsts and milestones. So, till then, I'll see you guys soon.